we go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power with me, Ananya Datta. As always, let's start talking about politics. Some big news just coming in from Sri Lanka, where postal ballot voting is currently underway and several ministers of state have been officially removed from their positions with immediate effect. Ministers of State for Ports and Aviation Services, Power and Energy, MOS for Agriculture and Minister of State for Highways have been removed after a decision that has been approved by the President under Article 47(3)(a) of the Constitution of Sri Lanka. And this comes after the Sri Lankan Prime Minister formally launched a new alliance just today, named Podujana Eksath Nidahaz Peramuna, and the bloc aims to launch a fresh political movement. The alliance will be led by Prime Minister himself, while Health Minister Ramesh Pathrinane will serve as its secretary. The launch event took place in the capital city of Colombo today, where several lawmakers from the party joined the alliance. And for more on this, our correspondent Dasuni Athauda is joining us on the phone line. Dasuni, what is the latest you have for us?
So, Ananya, with just over 2 weeks to go for the all-important presidential election, we received an interesting news alert noting that 4 state ministers have been sort of axed from their positions with immediate effect. This is done via Article 47, subsection 3, subsection A of the Sri Lankan Constitution. Now, what's interesting is the portfolios held by these state ministers are somewhat of important portfolios, that being ports and aviation services, power and energy, agriculture and highways. Now, keep in mind, before the elections even commenced, Sri Lanka had a bit of an issue with regard to the appointing of an IGP, which was not done on time by President Ranil Wickremesinghe, which was severely criticized. Now, this current alert is relatively new. It's a developing story, so we are awaiting more details as to who will be replacing these portfolios, these very important portfolios, or whether they will be replaced at all, Ananya.
All right, Dasuni, thank you so much for getting us all those updates from Colombo. 21st September is the D-Day in Sri Lanka, and we are yet to see how this will have a ripple effect on the elections.
In a committed work.
Shifting focus to another big story, it's final. September 10th, Pennsylvania at 9 p.m. local time on ABC. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump will face each other. After a lot of back and forth over the rules, both nominees have finally agreed for the debate. Now, this is what we know so far about the debate. The 90-minute debate will be held at the National Institute Center in Philadelphia, and no live audience will be allowed. Microphones will not be hot throughout the debate. They will be muted when it is the other candidate's turn to speak. Trump won a virtual coin flip. He will be giving the last closing statement, and Harris will be standing on the right of the screens. Right now, most opinion polls show Harris to be slightly ahead nationally and in the majority of battleground states as well. But Trump remains well within striking distance to win the November 5th elections. Now, celebrities and influencers are known for picking their favorite presidential candidate for the United States polls. From George Clooney to Taylor Swift, the big names have hinted at supporting Democratic presidential nominee Kamala Harris. But here's someone beyond the Pacific who is also hedging his bets on Harris. It's Russian President Vladimir Putin.
As for the favorites, there's no need to define that. It's a choice by the people of America in the end. I've said that our, so to say, favorite was the acting president, Mr. Biden. He's been taken out by the race, but he advised all his supporters to support Mrs. Harris. That's what we'll do. We'll support her as well. That's the first thing. Secondly, her laugh is so expressive and infectious. That means that she's doing well.
US intelligence agencies, however, believe Moscow actually wants Trump to win because he's less committed to supporting Ukraine in the war against Russia. But Putin has dismissed the speculation.
That Trump has imposed so many restrictions and sanctions against Russia. No president before him imposed so many. If Harris is doing well, maybe she'll refrain from such actions. In the end, it's a choice for the people of America to make. We'll respect that choice.
The Russian president's remarks comes a day after the US accused Russian media for poll interference. US Justice Department has indicted 2 Russian media executives accusing them of funneling $10 million to a Tennessee-based company that used social media influence for propaganda. We're now talking about an issue that's not much talked about. For months now, the upcoming US elections have put the spotlight on several issues that are critical to American voters and will be determining factors on the ballot. But beyond economy, inflation, immigration, there is one issue that both sides have refrained from talking about until now, after 4 more people have been killed in a school shooting. Just on Wednesday, a 14-year-old student shot and killed 2 students and 2 teachers at his school in the state of Georgia. The incident has triggered a wave of shock and grief across the United States, putting the country's gun laws back under the scanner. As per Gun Violence Archive, 385 mass shootings have taken place in the United States so far. Posting on his social media platform Truth Social, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump has condemned the incident and called the perpetrator a quote-unquote monster. Sitting Vice President and Joe Biden's successor Kamala Harris has also condemned the incident and called for an end to gun violence in the country. Harris reacted to the tragedy during a campaign stop in New Hampshire.
But this is just a senseless tragedy on top of so many senseless tragedies. And it's just outrageous that every day in our country, in the United States of America, that parents have to send their children to school worried about whether or not their child will come home alive. It's senseless. It is. We got to stop it. And we have to end this epidemic of gun violence in our country once and for all.
While both nominees have referred to the incident, neither has said anything about the elephant in the room, America's liberal gun laws. In a few days, all eyes will be on Trump and Harris as the 2 political rivals take the podium for a high-stakes presidential debate. Question is, will either of the two put forth concrete plans and promises on the future of America's gun laws? More importantly, are US voters going to make gun legislation an issue on November 5th ballot? All right, to take these conversations further, we are being joined by Mr. Garland Nixon. He's a political analyst and radio show host from Maryland, United States. Mr. Nixon, good to see you on WION.
Thank you for inviting me again.
There is so much I want to talk to you about, but let me start with this. I was looking at a few interviews that you did before, and in one of them you said Joe Biden is the worst US president that America has ever seen. I want to ask you about a person he has endorsed, Kamala Harris. What do you make of her and her journey so far on the campaign trail?
Well, so far on the campaign trail, the Harris campaign seems to be doing everything they can to hide her. They're not, she's only done one interview. So we are not able to see her and hear her. If you go on her website right now, you can't find anything about policy. There's some merchandise there. There's an introduction to her and her vice president's family. But there's no, as they say, there's no meat on the bone there right now. I think a lot of, U.S. voters want to hear her policies and they want to see and hear her. And so far, that's just not happening. And I think that's a problem for the campaign.
Do you expect any meat on the bone on the next debate we are going to see with Donald Trump?
I think there's going to be a position. There are going to be some positions that are going to have to come out there. There's going to be a discussion there. But to be quite frank, it's being moderated by the mainstream media. And the mainstream media in the United States has one job, and that job is to maintain the narrative of the current government, of the foreign policy establishment. So I don't expect that there'll be an opportunity for either of the candidates to stray from the current dogma, the current policy positions that the general people in power have taken. So I think it'll be more about Kamala Harris's ability to kind of stand on her own away from the administration, to establish herself as a credible and viable candidate that can represent the United States.
Right. You say that her campaign team is in a way hiding her. Well, whatever the strategy may be, it is definitely working because nationally she is ahead of Donald Trump, and most of the battleground states also she's doing pretty well. Where is Donald Trump falling short?
Well, to be quite frank, I think we've been down this road before in 2016. I really look at the numbers, and most of the numbers where she is leading is within the margin of error. And as long as things are within the margin of error, I will probably lean towards thinking that Donald Trump wins, simply because of the economic issues, because so many people are upset and unhappy with the economic issues, with the foreign policy issues. So she may win right now, but I do believe that Donald Trump has the edge because, as I said, if someone's up 1 or 2%, the margin of error is generally 4%. So you really don't know. Right. Also, RFK Jr. leaning towards Donald Trump probably will give him another 2.5%.
All right, Mr. Nixon, you make a very interesting point there. Let me ask you this. What's your reaction to Russian president saying that Kamala Harris is his favorite?
A couple of things. Number one, if you look at historically what President Putin has said historically and stood by it pretty strongly, is that it doesn't matter. From his perspective, it doesn't matter who the United States president is. As he has put it in the past, the guys come in with the black suits and the briefcases after someone is elected and tells them what to do. And I tend to lean in that direction, too. We have a very consistent foreign policy if you look at the various presidents that have come to power. So I do think that is somewhat of, the word I would use is trolling. I think he understands that now we're going to get the usual, the Russians are interfering with the election. Of course, they're going to say it's Trump. So I think he's somewhat trolling our media to some extent.
All right. And before I let you go, I have some stats for you, Mr. Nixon. There have been 385 mass shootings so far. Last year, the number stood at 600. Why are we not hearing much about the gun laws in America?
Well, the truth about America is this. America is not one cult, not a single culture, and it's not a single entity. As an example, there's a big difference when it comes to guns. If you live on a ranch in Montana that has rattlesnakes and wolves and bears, and you have to go around the ranch and check the fences, and your life could literally be in danger from wildlife, or Florida or Louisiana swamps with gators, or if you live in downtown Washington, D.C. And that's something that our politicians don't normally acknowledge, that the reality is we probably need different gun laws for different parts of the United States. And there's such a huge number of people that live in these rural areas that are in favor of, more in favor of more liberal gun rights, that no politician is going to push back against that too much because they would simply lose too many votes. That's a reality, right, wrong, or indifferent. And that is an electoral reality that will prevent our government from acting in the manner that they probably should for more gun restrictions, particularly, I would say, in our heavily populated areas.
All right, Mr. Nixon, thank you so much for those interesting insights, I must say. Thank you so much for speaking with us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, 2 months after elections, France finally has a prime minister. If in January it was Gabriel Attal, the youngest prime minister of France, today it is 73-year-old Michel Barnier, who will be the oldest prime minister in France's modern political history. Let's tell you a little about him. Barnier led the EU's talks with Britain over its exit from the bloc from 2016 till 2021. Prior to that, the Conservative politician held roles in various French governments and was also an EU commissioner. He is a member of the Liberal Conservative Party, the Republicans. The appointment comes after weeks of President Macron deliberating with political parties. He rejected the left's candidate Lucie Castet, and the left isn't happy with Barnier as the Prime Minister.
Our reaction does not focus on the qualities of this person. That is not the subject. The subject is that the President has just decided to officially deny the result of the legislative elections that he himself called for. And so the election has been stolen from the French people.
The far-right National Rally, whose party is one of the biggest in the parliament, has put out a post on social media. And I'm quoting from it. "We will judge his general policy speech, his budgetary decisions and his actions on the evidence. We reserve all political means of action if this is not the case in the coming weeks." The 2-month-old chaos began with Macron's decision to call for snap parliamentary elections. The results threw the centrist coalition out of majority and produced a hung parliament. While Barnier's appointment does end weeks of political deadlock, the tough days haven't ended in France. With the fractured parliament, adopting reforms will be a challenge. The first major task for Barnier will be to submit next year's budget plan to the National Assembly. And if other parties are not satisfied, it could trigger a vote of no confidence. And to get us the latest, our correspondent Ross Cullen is joining us live from Paris. Ross, good to see you. It's been about 3 hours since the appointment. How has the reception been in Paris?
Well, the reception from the left wing has been interesting. If you look at the leaders from the different parties making up the new Popular Front, they have been furious about this appointment of Michel Barnier by the French president. They have called for mass street protests. They have said it is a denial of democracy. They have said the election has been stolen. They finished first in the snap vote in July, but they had the greatest number of MPs combined, but they were still well short of a majority. We have more or less 3 main blocs in the French Parliament as a result of that snap election: the left, the centre and the far right. None of them at the 289 MPs you need to form a majority in the National Assembly. Therefore, there was going to have to be some form of compromise, some form of coalition. And the French president, surprisingly, has gone for a representative of the party which finished 4th in the election, the Republicans, the centre-right, Michel Barnier, a veteran of French politics, first being appointed as a minister in 1993 under the then President Jacques Chirac, and more recently, as you say, he's been working in the European Union. His first job when he officially takes office at 6 p.m. local time here in France today will be to try to work out how to form a coalition government. Will he call on members of parliament from other political parties to try to have a big tent coalition government with many different representative voices, not just from his party? Will he also try to work out how to present a budget plan, which needs to be done before the 1st of October, that is able to satisfy the European Union, not just France? And is he also going to be able to hold together this coalition government, because it's likely the left wing will call for a no confidence vote within days of his first government coming into power, which will be the first sitting of the National Assembly on the 1st of October.
All right, Ross, thank you so much for all those updates from Paris. Let's shift focus to another big story. It has been 1 month since student protests in Bangladesh forced the country's long-reigning Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina out of the office. Ever since, questions have been looming over the timing of a fresh election. In the latest Bangladeshi elections chief, Qazi Habibul Awal has resigned from his post after months of denying any political interference in the January elections that Hasina won for a third term in a row. Awal and 4 other election commissioners are the latest in the line of Hasina-appointed officials to quit. So far, they all have cited Sheikh Hasina's ouster as the reason for their resignation. Tens of thousands of Bangladeshis are out in the streets of Dhaka today, marking 1 month to a movement that put an end to a 15-year-old regime. The rally was named March for Martyrs to commemorate over 1,000 people who died in the unrest.
We have only one demand from the interim government. They will return our rights for which we fought during the movement. Therefore, people in the country can say we are living in an independent and democratic country. That's all.
But 1 month on, the political future of the country remains uncertain, with caretaker leader Mohammad Yunus not giving any clarity on when the interim government will conduct elections. Yunus has repeatedly said that policy changes take priority over an election. The sweeping changes and developments have forced Hasina's Awami League to fade away into the background, but chief opposition in the country, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party or the BNP, is seen as having the greatest chance of winning the polls. Shifting focus to the United Kingdom now, Conservative leader Priti Patel has been eliminated from the race to succeed Rishi Sunak as the next Tory leader. The former Interior Minister, despite being a popular face among the Conservative leadership, secured only 14 votes, the lowest among all candidates.
So as a result of the ballot, Priti Patel is eliminated from the contest, and there'll be a further ballot next Tuesday to reduce the list from 5 to 4 candidates, who will then be going to the Conservative Party conference. Thank you very much for your attendance, and we look forward to the ballot next week.
5 candidates have made it to the next round after voting concluded in the first round of Wednesday's polling. Robert Jenrick emerged as a favourite, securing the support of 28 of his parliamentary colleagues. Kemi Badenoch, a former State Secretary for Business and Trade, won 22 votes, just one more than former Home and Foreign Secretary James Cleverly, who had 21 votes. Tom Tuttenhat secured only 17 votes, while Mel Stride still remains in the race with 16 votes. Further ballots will be held on October 9th and 10th to whittle down the race to 2 who will be put forward to an all-party members' vote. Sunak's successor will be announced on 2nd of November. Now, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has suffered an unexpected blow on Wednesday when the New Democratic Party, which was helping him keep his minority Liberal government in power, withdrew its support. The left-leaning NDP's leader, Jagmeet Singh, said that he was ripping up a deal struck with Prime Minister Trudeau back in 2022. In his video message, Singh called the Liberals too weak and too selfish. He accused Trudeau of being beholden to corporate interests and not being able to take on the Conservative opposition.
Fact is, the Liberals are too weak, too selfish, and too beholden to corporate interests to fight for people. They cannot be the change. They cannot restore the hope. They cannot stop the Conservative.
NDP's withdrawal comes just around 13 months ahead of general elections in Canada, which are scheduled for October 2025. The move leaves Trudeau reliant on support from other opposition lawmakers to run the government. Currently, Canada's House of Commons has 154 Liberal members of the Parliament, 119 Conservatives, 32 Bloc Québécois MPs, 24 NDP MPs, 2 Greens and 3 Independents. Lawmakers are due to return to work in Ottawa on September 16th, when the Conservatives may propose a vote of confidence. However, Trudeau dismissed talks of early elections, expressing hope that the NDP will stay with the government and focus on delivering for Canadians and pushing through social reforms like the past years, rather than focusing on politics.
I am not focused on politics. I'll let other parties focus on politics. I'm focused on actually delivering the things that Canadians told me this summer they need. I had thousands of conversations with people across the country. Very few of them wanted to talk politics.
Experts say Trudeau's Liberals could still survive the vote of confidence if the NDP abstained. And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me, Ananya Datta. Goodbye.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I should push myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
This week on World of Africa, Chinese lenders approve $4 billion in loans to Africa in 2023, the first annual increase since 2016. Crime statistics in South Africa reveal alarming numbers. Over 6,000 people murdered between April and June this year, most of them women and children. And Morocco embraces eco-tourism by offering visitors more sustainable experiences. All this and more this week on World of Africa at these times.
YO1 Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to YO1 Health Resort. Make your reservation at yo1.com.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. We Weekdays, 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Namaste. Hello, friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Fine Print. My name is Mohammed Saleh, and let's start this broadcast by taking a quick look at what is making headlines at this hour. The Palestinians carry the dead and the injured as ambulances rush to this deadly scene after an airstrike by the Israelis targeted the city of